Next we move on to, after the tongue, we move on to the pharynx. Generally, pharynx is considered to be a common passage for food and air. Pharynx is considered to be the common passage for the food and air. Pharynx is classified into the three parts. The three parts of the pharynx are, one is said to be the nasopharynx, two the oropharynx, and the third one is said to be the laryngopharynx. Pharynx. Pharynx is a common passage for food and air. It is including the nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. In this connection, we learn the nasopharynx, the part of the pharynx which is situated above the soft palate. The descriptive information of the pharynx is because of a soft palate. That is the regionalization based on the soft palate, which means the nasopharynx, the part of the pharynx above the soft palate, and the oropharynx below the soft palate, and the part of the pharynx that the naso and oropharynx leading is the laryngopharynx, which is associated with the larynx, and that's what it is, a laryngopharynx. So based on its regionalization is because of whether they are present above the soft palate or below the soft palate. Pharynx is a common passage. It is a common platform for food and air, and it is nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. The part of the pharynx above the soft palate is a nasopharynx, which consists of the Eustachian tube, which is said to be the auditory tube. Certain times we feel that after bathing, the blockage takes place in the ear. Why? It is that the blockage in the Eustachian tube, which means the middle ear connected to the nasopharynx by means of Eustachian tube. It is an accommodation to reduce or minimize the pressure of the vibrations, sound vibrations. As you hear more sounds, definitely the tympanum which may be damaged. As these pressure of the sound vibration increases, the audibility is what we may permanently lost. That's the reason. In order to reduce the pressure of the sound vibration, the sound vibrations are switched into the nasopharynx by means of a connection named to be the Eustachian tube. Eustachian tube minimizes the pressure in the middle ear of the sound vibrations. So it is a connection between the middle ear with that of the nasopharynx, auditory tube. It is made up of elastic cartilage. We see the cartilage is of three types: hyaline, fibrous, and elastic. Elastic cartilage, what are seen in the Eustachian tube. Eustachian tube is made up of elastic cartilage. It connects the middle ear with that of the nasopharynx. Besides that, in the nasopharynx, the internal nostrils are present. Internal nostrils. So the nasopharynx is the part of the pharynx which is situated above the soft palate, and it is what contain the internal nostrils and Eustachian tube. Eustachian tube is the connection between the middle ear and the pharynx, nasopharynx, and it minimizes the pressure created in the middle ear of the sound vibration. And internal nostril, it is a passage of the air. So this is how the air that we breathe in is passed through the nasopharynx itself. Next, the part of the pharynx that is situated below the soft palate is the oropharynx. Naso and oropharynx lead into the laryngopharynx. Laryngopharynx is what lead into either the food passage called into the esophagus as well as into the air passage into the larynx, larynx into the trachea. This is how it is said to be the common passage for air and food. Basically, the functions of the pharynx is we consider flow of the food and air. Next, the pharynx is a part where some lymphoid structures are present. Lymphoid structures, we say it is. Lymphoid structures are none other than the immunity purpose. In the case of the pharynx and oral cavity region, there present the lymphatic structures. The lymphatic structures are arranged in the form of a ring. This is what we see is a ring. The ring is about named to be the Waldeir's ring. Waldeir's ring. Waldeir's ring. A Waldeir ring is nothing but the consist of the cluster of the lymphoid tissues, lymphatic tissues, which is with the pharyngeal tonsils. Basically, we term it as lymphatic structures are tonsils, pharyngeal tonsils, and the tubal tonsils, then the palatine tonsils, and the lingual tonsils, In general, what we see is as a protective mechanism, immune system, the lymphatic tissues are present in our body. In this connection, lymphatic system, which include lymphoid organs, lymphatic tissues, that's what we see: primary lymphoid organs, secondary lymphoid organs. Besides that, the lymphatic tissues, which is refers to be malt, mucosa associated lymphatic tissues, which forms about the 50% of the immune lymphatic system is occupied by this. So these are what name it to be the tonsils, the lymphatic structures. That is, in the pharynx and the oral cavity, there is a circle of the lymphatic tissues, name it to be the tonsils. These tonsils are pharyngeal tonsils, tubal tonsils, palatine tonsils, and lingual tonsils, which are arranged in the form of the circle. That's what we say is a ring, Waldeir's ring. Pharyngeal tonsils, tubal tonsils, palatine tonsils, and lingual tonsils. In this connection, the pharyngeal tonsils also referred to be adenoids. Generally, the pharyngeal tonsils, the lymphatic tissues, tonsils present surrounding the pharynx are pharyngeal tonsils, which are adenoids. Basically, children are suffer from the breathing problems as well as the what is called sore throat. That is because of the tonsillitis, particularly the palatine tonsils, which inflammation in the palatine tonsils is what name it to be the tonsillitis. So they suffer from either breathing problem. That's the reason why the children are what facing a problem of guraka. That is, there is a disturbance. What do you mean by the disturbance in the while sleeping one produces sound? Guraka is nothing but an obstruction in the flow of the air. That's what one suffers from the sounds while sleep. That is because of the swelling and inflammation in the pharyngeal. Adenoid swelling results in what is called the breathing problem. That generally children will face a problem. Pharyngeal tonsils or adenoid present surrounding the pharynx. Next, tubal tonsils. Tubal tonsils are located near the Eustachian tube. So here also we come to know relatively, that is, wherever it is present, it is named. The one that is present at the pharynx is a pharyngeal tonsil. That is associated with the Eustachian tube is a tubal tonsils. That is present at the throat, that is the palatine region. Throat is a palatine tonsils, and that attached to the or present close to the pharyngeal part of the tongue is a lingua. Lingua refer to the tongue. Next, pharyngeal, pharynx, tubal to the Eustachian tube. So, the lymphatic tissues which are referred to the tonsils, since they are present surrounding the oral region, we say it as a oral tonsils. Even we see the abdominal tonsils, that is vermiform appendix. That is also immunity purpose. So, the lymphatic tissues which are arranged in a circle form or what the Valdes ring. These are the tonsils named to be the pharyngeal tonsils, tubal tonsils, palatine tonsils and lingual tonsils. The one that are located near the pharynx is the pharyngeal tonsils. It is said to be the adenoids. Children particularly suffer from the breathing. That is the pharyngeal tonsils. Tubal tonsils, the lymphatic tissues that are present near the Eustachian tube are tubal tonsils. Palatine tonsils, which are what present close to the throat, palatine tonsils. And the inflammation in the palatine tonsils results in the tonsillitis. They cannot speak clearly. So, tonsillectomy is to be done for that. Tonsillectomy is tonsillectomy, removal of the palatine tonsils, tonsillectomy. And lingual tonsils, that lymphatic tissues that are present close to the tongue are the lingual tonsils. So, these are all what arranged in a circle manner and results in a Valdes ring. This is of immunity purpose, just now we have seen. In what way? That is, these tonsils are what producing the immunoglobulins A. Immune system in our body involving the antibodies which are said to be the immunoglobulins. These immunoglobulins are of immunoglobulin A, D, E, G, M. In this, the immunoglobulin A are what secreted by these tonsils. This is how they increase the immunity system, immune processes. That's what it is, a part of the lymphatic system. That is the pharynx as well as the tonsils. That is nothing but the lymphatic tissues. Next, we go for the what is called a food pipe. Food pipe is nothing but the esophagus. Esophagus is the narrow portion, and it is the one which linked to the stomach. It starts behind the pharynx and it runs into the what is called stomach. Esophagus is a narrow part and it includes the cervical part, the part near to the neck, cervical part, then the what is called the thoracic part, and the next is abdominal part. So, three parts are present in the esophagus. One that is in the cervical part. The next is the thoracic part, which is present in the thorax, and the later part which pierces the diaphragm and enter into the stomach is the third portion, which is the abdominal part. So, three parts are present in the esophagus. Esophagus is with the mucus secretion. This mucus what allows the gradual flow of the food from esophagus into the what is called as the stomach. Esophagus opens into the stomach by means of an opening called the cardia, where the esophageal sphincter, inferior or else it is a cardiac sphincter we say, which prevents the backward flow of the food. That's what the esophagus. The next is the stomach. Esophagus lead into the stomach. Stomach is said to be gaster. The term we refer for the stomach is a gaster. Stomach is the widest part of the alimentary canal or gut. It is a J-shaped structure. It is a J-shaped structure that we can see in the diagram. Look at here. Stomach is a J-shaped. The widest part of the stomach is none other than the gaster. The widest part of the gut is a stomach, also name it to be the gaster. It is a J-shaped, present at the left side part of the body. Basically, the gaster or stomach, which includes the folds, which are named to be the curvatures. That is lesser curvatures and the greater curvatures. Greater curvatures. Stomach is with the lesser curvatures and the greater curvatures. Stomach is the part which includes the fundus part, cardiac part, body and pylorus. This is the fundus part. Next cardia, then body and pyloric part. Pylorica part. Pyloric part. So, stomach includes, generally in our body all the parts are held in a proper place. The gut is with the peritoneum. So, in this connection, what we see is a fold of peritoneum, which runs posterior to the greater curvatures and connects the stomach to the posterior abdominal cavity is named to be the greater omentum. Greater omentum. Greater omentum is nothing but the fold of peritoneum which runs posterior to the greater curvature and connects the stomach to the posterior abdominal, which is named to be the greater omentum, and it contains the fat. This is how it is suspended there. It is held there. And the stomach, which is the gaster J-shaped, includes the parts named to be the fundus, cardia, body and the pyloric part. In terms of sequences, the first part is the cardiac only. Cardiac. We may mislead as this is the first part. No. How to consider a part first? The part where the previous part is opening. So, esophagus opens into the cardia. That's the reason why cardia is the first part. Fundus. Next, the body, the largest part. And then it is the pyloric part. So, these are the parts we see in the case of the stomach. gaster, cardiac part. Since this is close to the heart, that's what it got the name the cardiac part. And this is the part into which the esophagus open by means of an opening called cardiac. And here where a sphincter is present, name it to be the cardiac sphincter. Unstraighted muscle, it's not a valve. Remind you. Remember this is the cardiac sphincter is nothing but the unstraighted involuntary muscles are what forming the sphincters. So here the sphincter which is present surrounding the cardiac opening is a cardiac sphincter. It is an unstraighted muscle, and it prevents the regurgitation in the sense the process of backward flow of the food. So food has to move from one part to another, it should not come back. However, abnormally that is a vomiting sensation that takes place, that is a different one. But here generally the food should not go backward. The backward flow of the food is named to be the regurgitation. Once the food reaches into the stomach, it does not go back. That is regurgitation prevented by cardiac sphincter, which is present surrounding the cardia. So it is the opening between the esophagus into the stomach is by an opening called cardia. Surrounding that there present the sphincter, cardiac sphincter, which prevents the regurgitation. Since it is close to the heart, so it is the cardiac part. The next is the fundus. Fundus is the part which is filled with the gas or air. Fundus is the part with the gas or air. Next part is the body. Body is the largest within the gastric stomach, it is the large portion. And the pyloric is the last part which lead into the small intestine. The stomach that lead into the intestine, that is small intestine, which is differentiated, regionalized into duodenum, jejunum and ileum. So the stomach lead into the duodenum. Diagrammatically you can see this is the duodenum. So into that the stomach open by means of pyloric part, which is the posterior part of the stomach, which lead into the duodenum, where an opening is present, name it to be the pylorus. And this is surrounded by means of pyloric sphincter, second sphincter that is associated with the stomach, pyloric sphincter, which regulates the flow of the food from stomach into the duodenum. As how we discussed earlier in the case of the cardiac sphincter, which prevents the backward flow of the food into the esophagus. In the same manner, once the partially digested food in the stomach, partially proteins are digested in the stomach, as it is with however some extent the gastric lipase also secreted, but negligible. We consider the partially digestion takes place in the stomach that of the proteins. Proteins are partially digested by means of the proteases are present here. Pepsin is a acidic acting the protein in the stomach, which is in the form of the inactive pepsinogen. So this partially digested food from the stomach lead into the duodenum by means of the pylorus opening. Surrounding that a sphincter is present, pyloric sphincter. The pyloric part is of two parts, again regions, pyloric antrum and pyloric canal. So pyloric antrum lead into pyloric canal, pyloric canal lead into the duodenum. This is how the stomach receives the food from the esophagus. At the same time, it sends into in a regulator manner into the duodenum. Now the functions of the stomach. Stomach is stores the food for some extent. It stores the food for 4 to 5 hours. Then it digests the food. Digestion of the food. Digestion of the food takes place by means of the enzymes. We have seen in the beginning, digestion is of chemical, microbial and the mechanical. So here chemical digestion that involves the enzymes. Here the pepsin is an enzyme, pepsin protease. All the food that we take are in a macromolecule form. They are in a large form, non-diffusible. So they need to be converted into simpler, then only they are diffused. For that they require the enzymes. And pepsin is an enzyme which is secreted and digests the proteins. So it stores, functions of the stomach, stores the food for some extent. Then the digestion of the proteins. Not only this, it is of some extent some sugar, simple sugars, water, aspirin, alcohol is absorbed at the stomach. So stomach is of a gaster, J-shaped, widest part, includes, it is located at the left side, cardiac, fundus, body and pyloric parts are present, and it is with the curvatures, which is lesser curvature as well as the greater curvatures. The greater curvatures, just behind it a fold of peritoneum which runs posterior to the greater curvatures and connects the stomach into the posterior abdominal by means of greater omentum which contain the fat. And the first portion is a cardiac, since it is present close to the heart, so it is a cardiac. It got the name into which the esophagus opening by means of cardia, an opening, so here cardiac sphincter. The next part is, so not to confuse, the fundus cannot be the first part, and it leads, then fundus portion is with the air, gas is present. Body is the third portion, large part, pyloric part is the posterior portion which lead into the duodenum. And the pyloric part, basically stomach functions also involve the secretion of enzyme. Basically the gastric juice is secreted. The gastric juice which include the HCl, hydrochloric acid, and it is with the enzymes. The enzymes is pepsin, and besides that the hormones are also secreted in the stomach. It is for storing the food, digestion of the food by enzymes. Enzymes secreted are the pepsin, which is a part of the gastric juice. Besides that, hormones are also secreted in the stomach. The hormone secreted is a gastrin. Gastrin is a hormone secreted from the pyloric part. And this gastrin stimulates the gastric gland to secrete the gastric juice. So, digestion is by enzymes. Secretion of enzyme is by under the control of the hormones. And these hormones are also secreted when the food containing protein reaches the stomach. So, when food enters into the stomach, which is a protein content, that causes the swelling of the, in general, stomach have what is called the rugae, which expand the stomach. Once the food reaches into the stomach, it gets expanded, which stimulate the pyloric part to secrete the hormone gastrin, and this gastrin in turn stimulate the gastric gland to secrete the gastric juice, which contain the pepsin, which digests the proteins. This partially digested protein from stomach through the pylorus opening enter into the duodenum. So the stomach functions are storing food for some time, then digestion and the secretion of enzymes, hormones called gastrin, and it is also for the absorption. Some extent some sugars, simple sugars, water and alcohol, aspirin, a drug is also absorbed. The stomach lead into intestine. Intestine is the largest part of the gut. The intestine is of small intestine and large intestine, small intestine and large intestine. Small and large. Why such differentiation? Basically, this intestine, in terms of the diameter, it is smaller. That's what small intestine, which is larger, wider, so large intestine. Basically, in terms of the animals, gut length what varies. Herbivores are with the longer alimentary canal. Here we see the herbivores feed on the plant substance, cellulose. Cellulose is mostly indigestible. So, and it requires a large surface area. This is the reason the herbivores are with a longer alimentary canal than do the carnivores. And here, this is an example. Small intestine, large intestine. Small intestine is of 6.25 centimeters. The small intestine, which includes the duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum, jejunum and ileum. These are the three portions we see in the small intestine, which is 6.25 centimeters. I mean, it is 6.25 meters, means the larger is what we have to give the unit. 6.25 meters means 6 meter 25 centimeters.